When should you hire a financial advisor? Well, let's get into it. Hi, my name's Kerry Green. I'm a co-founder and financial planner at Green Era Financial.
I'm JJ Widmeyer. I'm the Chief Investment Officer over at Green Era Financial, as well as financial planner.
JJ, when would be some situations where somebody should consider hiring a financial advisor?
Well, I can only speak from a majority of my experience, and definitely the first one that I've noticed is the most important is that when somebody inherits a large amount of money and they haven't had any money before, there's so many mistakes that somebody can do right when they inherit money because they get so excited that that's a great time to meet with a financial professional and start figuring out what's best there to support you, your life, and your goals.
Okay.
So definitely when you inherit or bring in a whole bunch of money and you've never had money before, that's definitely one of them.
And what would you define as like a large, like 10,000, 100,000, 500,000? Like what would be sort of a point where someone would want to talk to a financial advisor when they're receiving an inheritance?
If you've never had money before, usually if it's like 100,000, it comes in, you either go party, you go have some fun, you probably pay off all of your debts. So I see it as probably when you bring in about 250 to 350,000 and above, is it after you've taken care of, like, I'm not giving you financial advice, obviously, but after you've taken care of like some of the basics, like if you've got a big chunk left over, that's definitely the time to meet with one.
Okay, see, I would say before you even receive that inheritance, right? Before you receive the money and you go blow it on buying an expensive car, going on a crazy vacation, which there's nothing wrong with, but I would say, let's say your great Uncle Bob passes away and he leaves you 300 grand. As soon as you find that out, in my opinion, that's when you start looking for somebody who can help make sure that when you receive that money, you pay the least amount of taxes if there's any tax burden, and also that you set things up so you're really taking care of like what are the smart financial decisions to make.
Oh yeah,
that's my opinion.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, well, another situation which I have found to be very key is, in my experience, a lot of people come to me or come to our firm when they're like right on the brink of retirement, right? They're like, I'm retiring on Friday. Can you help me out?
Yeah.
And it's definitely better late than never, for sure. But one of the things that most people don't realize is that in retirement, the moment you retire is when things get way more complex than in the earlier part of your life where you were just focused on making money and accumulating and building wealth. When you reach retirement, now we get into that disbursement phase where now you're taking money out of your investments to fund your life and your golden years in retirement. That's where taxes come into play. Your income can affect Social Security and Medicare benefits, and all of these complex factors come into play. So generally speaking, one thing that I tell everybody that I can is if you're within 10 years of retiring and you're planning on not just living off Social Security, but you're building wealth to have as a nest egg for retirement, hire a financial planner or financial advisor. You need enough time to make any changes or implement any plans or adjustments to make sure that when you do reach retirement, you're fully set and ready to rock and roll.
Yeah, I'm 100% on that. And what I've also seen is that over time, you start making these little tweaks here and there and here and there and here and there, and you keep on making these little tweaks. And the longer you have on that runway to make these little tweaks on the investments, on the financial planning, you have so much, well, mathematically, if you've done it right, you have so much more when you retire, and it's such a smoother transition.
Yeah.
It's not just going like,
yeah,
all right, now I don't have a paycheck. How do I do this?
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
Totally.
Yeah,
I agree with that for sure. Yeah. What would be another situation where somebody should consider hiring a financial advisor?
When I first started out, this is like almost a decade ago, what I was noticing is that people would have a business and then they would sell their business and then they would meet with a financial advisor. So
like after the sale.
Yeah, after the sale.
Yeah.
Right? And so it's usually 2 to 3 years before that sale that you should definitely be meeting with a financial
100%.
advisor, as well as if the business is going to be sold for more than $3 to $5 million, you also want to kind of tag in like a tax attorney.
Totally.
That combo right there, that sets you up for being able to sell the business and pay a lot less taxes usually than you were going to before. and you can start setting things up and kind of have that team work together to just get you an exit that's so smooth.
But yeah, I mean, that's something that I personally have friends who came into a small or medium size or large windfall, and just and I said, hey, if you want help, I'm here for you, but like make sure whether you work with me or somebody else, like get some guidance and help.
Oh yeah.
And a few of them listened, a few of them didn't, and there's a stark difference in their finances as a result.
Not completely off topic, but there's a documentary called 60 for 60 Going Broke. Have you ever seen that?
No.
Okay. It's all about pro athletes coming in, getting that huge sum. You know what I mean? They're on contract. They're now going to make like $80 million for the next 5 years. And then by the 3 to 5 years after they exit the NFL, like they're broke.
Yeah, I've seen.
That's the thing.
It's funny. I've seen statistics of like 70+% of NFL players go broke after their contract, or these things that you're like, how, and obviously that's again subject for a different video, but comes down to education and on the subject of personal finance and just making the right moves and having somebody that really has your best interests at heart that can guide you. Another situation that I see where I think it's really important to consider hiring a financial advisor is if you're a business owner.
Yeah.
Right. Like, and I don't mean you have maybe a small e-commerce website making 20 grand a year kind of thing. I mean, you have a business, right? You're making at least north of 6 figures, over 100 grand a year in income or in profit in that business. If you fall into that category, a financial advisor can help you immensely, not just from the perspective of, how do you set up your own savings and investments? Because as a business owner, you're taxed differently, and you're maybe not just receiving a paycheck as a W-2 employee of some company, right? It's structured a little bit differently, but there's also so many different totally legitimate strategies that can be implemented to lower your taxes, right? Taxes are the biggest expense any of us have in our life. I think it's estimated like 34.3% of the average American's income goes towards taxes in their lifetime, which is insane.
That's wild.
Between all the various different types of taxes. But yeah, if you're a business owner, you're making decent money. And I'm not talking about like $500,000 plus, but just decent money, which I would say is north of 6 figures. I would talk to a financial professional and just make sure that you have your basics in place and you're not, have all your eggs in one basket of your business, but you're also, you're working hard. Like, take your money and put it to work for you. Start setting up investment accounts, savings accounts, build up that nest egg, that emergency fund, have a plan B in case something happens. And, are also taking advantage of those tax strategies. I think it's very important.
I think it's super important as well. I've worked with a couple of clients that have businesses. And then when we get into like the financial modeling, which I don't want to get too much into here, and start actually looking at, okay, if we change this or change this or change this, how much money will you have? You spend this much on your marketing, like how much money will you have? When you get into that financial planning part, I think that it's super important to have that projection for the future for business owners. Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I mean, in my experience, there's fundamentally two, I hate to like classify people, but there's kind of two types of people who generally, in the roughly decade or so I've been doing this too, work with a financial advisor. And those are usually people who, maybe have some money saved up, they receive some windfall, they have a business that pays them well or whatever, maybe they work for a company and they make a lot of money, but they have some money. Mm-hmm. But they have no clue what to do with it.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying like they're dumb or low IQ. They're just simply, maybe they're an expert software programmer, but they don't necessarily know a lot about investing, the stock market, building wealth, taxes, budgeting, estate planning, all the fundamentals of personal finance. And they just want someone to help them, someone they can trust, someone who will look out for their best interests, someone who will work with them. And they can just go like, thank you, it stresses me out, can you just help me with my finances and help me build wealth and make sure I'm okay? That's one type of person, right? The guy who's doing well, has some wherewithal, has some money or whatever, and just needs help because they don't really know what to do.
Yeah.
And then there's the person or family or couple who maybe also has some money, has the wherewithal, whatever, but they're not financially illiterate. They know what they're doing.
Oh yeah.
Maybe they've built, a $5 million investment balance over 20, 30 years playing the stock market, right? And they like know what they're doing. They've learned about finances. They're educated. They're what I would consider to be an educated investor, but they just don't want to deal with it anymore.
Yeah.
Right? They're like, hey, I'm 60 or 70 or sometimes older, and my wife wants me to spend time with her and to stop paying attention to the stock market, right? Or they're just like, I've been doing this for so long, I'm sick of it. Will you please take over? And that's surprisingly common.
I've seen that. I've seen a couple other versions of that too,
Sure.
where I have some clients, and I've seen it before, where they come in, they have a good chunk of change, right?
Sure.
But then at the same time, they're like, I actually want to trust what I'm going to live off of with you, and I'm going to kind of keep my play account over here and kind of like do this other thing. Mostly because they're used to a certain amount of risk, or they're willing to take more risk with their accounts.
Yeah.
And then they're like, I want to make sure that what I have to live off of is being taken care of professionally. So
Sure.
I've seen that
Yeah.
as well. I've also, I had one client that he had an account that he liked, and then he would talk with me as well and go, hey, okay, I'm thinking about doing this, and he kind of used me as like a bouncing board.
Sure.
So I've seen that on kind of like the upper echelons of individuals, but it's mostly those people that have money, and you don't want to be, you don't want to have the heart attack when you're all the time looking at your account.
Yeah, that's our job, right?
Yeah.
That's true. Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah. So there's the truth is anybody could benefit from talking to a financial advisor. But generally speaking, when you should hire a financial advisor is when you're a business owner and you're making decent money, when you're approaching retirement, or you're in retirement. If you're watching this video and you're like in retirement, or you just retired, and better late than never for sure. Or you receive some very large windfall, or a decent sized windfall, right?
Your
Some
significant other's nagging you. They're like, I don't want you to look at it anymore.
That too, right? Or, and those are sort of common scenarios where I feel like a financial advisor could help you the most. Mm-hmm. If you are maybe in your early 20s and you're sort of just kind of getting launched, maybe you're fresh from college or something like that, and you're working at a corporate job, W-2, and you're then you could still benefit from working with a financial advisor, but you're not going to get as much out of that relationship as maybe somebody who has more wherewithal or is closer to retirement or is a business owner. There's just more that we can help somebody in those categories with, right? So I think that's kind of a common thing. But rule of thumb, if you're considering hiring a financial advisor, just start talking to financial advisors and see if they can provide the value that that you're looking for.
And I hear you on all that. Based on kind of what you just said, what are some of the things that you feel like when you're going to hire a financial advisor, maybe you should look at and make sure that those kind of like items are in a row? Like, what are some unique ways? Because a lot of people can like search 10 things you should look at. So just from your personal experience, what's some unique things that you should be looking at when you're sitting across from a financial advisor looking to hire them?
Yeah, okay, so that's a great question. Immediately I can tell you what I think is the most important thing, which is that person a fiduciary?
Oh, yeah.
So people have heard that term, and there's a lot of kind of slight misconceptions. The simplicity of what a fiduciary is, and please by all means look it up, is if somebody's a fiduciary in their relationship to a client or to another person, they have that legal requirement and responsibility to put the interests of their client ahead of their own or anybody else's, and to also disclose any potential conflicts of interest to that person. Right. So what that translates to is, let's say you're a client and I'm a financial advisor who's a fiduciary, and you come to me and I'm going to help you. I am required to do my absolute best for you that I can. If I give you a piece of advice, it has to be the best advice I can give you based off my understanding of your situation, my knowledge and expertise and what I'm able to do. So, believe it or not, not all financial advisors or people who call themselves financial advisors are upheld to the fiduciary standard. So that's the first thing: is ask your financial advisor, are you a fiduciary?
Yeah.
And it's a yes or no question. It's not, well, here's the thing: I help people really make sure I do a good job. No, are you a fiduciary? Yes or no. And then I'm sure you have your own input, but there's probably two other things I would say. The next one is I would stay away from people who only do insurance, right? Life insurance or annuity products. If a financial advisor can offer those, that's fine. But if they only do that, it's kind of like trying to make, you're like at a construction job and you're trying to put up walls, and the guy's sitting there convincing you that this hammer is the best tool for the job when you're trying to screw screws into the drywall.
Yeah.
And if you only offer insurance-based products, they can be great products. They can be set up very well for people. Sometimes they're very suitable for people, but they're just a tool in the toolbox.
That's right.
And so you want someone who can do everything, can help with investment accounts and mutual funds and ETFs and stocks and bonds, and as well as insurance-based products, and has the full array of everything that they can do for you. And then the very last thing is, I would ask the advisor how many clients they have that are similar to you. And here's what I mean. If you are a retiree, you're 75, you're retired, you've got $1 million in the stock market, and you're talking to a financial advisor, but that financial advisor specializes only in helping business owners in the tech industry, they might not have a lot of experience dealing with the problems or issues that you might encounter as a retiree in your 70s with $1 million. And so they may not have the experience or foresight or knowledge to help you overcome and handle the things that you may need to overcome and handle. Whereas an advisor who helps people who are retired in their 70s with a decent amount of money is going to have a lot more understanding of like, okay, cool, we need to have conversations about your Medicare, we need to talk about Social Security benefits and setting up your legacy and the things that would apply to you. So I think making sure they're a fiduciary, making sure they're not just sort of pigeonholed into one type of product or service that they offer. And then also number 3, making sure that they have a background serving clients like you.
I totally hear that. And I was going to kind of like chime in on the like 1 and 2. And it's like making sure that they're a fiduciary and they have a lot of tools in their toolbox, right? Like,
yeah, exactly.
So that they can they're legally bound to help you and they have a lot of tools, right? Because if they're legal bound to help you and they only have 3 tools, they're going to legally help you like as much as they possibly can with just those 3 tools.
Sure.
So make sure it's a big toolbox and they're a fiduciary. I think it's really, really, really cool though, what you're saying on making sure that the advisor, when you're meeting with them for the client, has a lot of clients that are just like them, right? Yeah. Because you build this expertise over time, handling those specific problems. Yeah. You know, I worked in Social Security for a really long time. I have a ton of experience with it. I've delivered hundreds of seminars with Social Security. And I had one client come in, he's like, hey, I have this problem with Social Security. I'm like, don't worry, I have the file saved for the form that you need to do, and I'll help you fill it out. You know what I mean? And it's like handled like that because I handle that all the time.
Yeah. Now, just to clarify, cool. you didn't work for Social Security.
No.
Okay. You mean like helping people to understand and clarify their benefits and that kind of thing, right?
Absolutely. So that's being a financial advisor, being a financial planner, and then working with people on how to pick the correct Social Security strategy that's going to be correct for them.
Got it. Okay.
Right?
Cool.
And then, anyways, there's sometimes things will happen, like if you sell a property, we won't get into that here, but sometimes things will happen and then there'll be more fees on top of your Social Security. So there's actually a form that you file to bring the fees back down and you get normal Social Security.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah, it was like one of those things I was like, oh yeah, I know exactly what's happening here's this form, file it, send it to this person, da 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 da.
And that was because you had all that experience.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I have tons of experience in the field. So I think all of those are great. The couple of unique questions that I think are great for kind of figuring out if this is the advisor for you is one, I always look at the tenure of the staff.
What do you mean?
Right? So what I mean by that is that say you have an advisor, he's been an advisor for 10 years, 12 years, 13 years, right? Now, if he has a lot of turnover in his staff, like he has a receptionist that keeps on turning over, like he can't keep a receptionist there, he can't keep his assistant there, he can't keep other advisors there. There's some core thing going on in that business.
Oh, interesting.
There's some core thing going in that advisory practice, and because that I guess you could say kind of like disturbance is constantly in that advisory practice, I find that they can't give as much attention to their clients as they probably should because there's something else going on.
Or it could be maybe that advisor's not being the most ethical or not really looking out for the best interests of their client.
That's right.
And the staff will eventually realize this. They'll become aware of that.
Yeah.
And then leave.
That's right.
And go, I don't really want to be a part of, this guy's only selling, he's not really looking out for his client. He's just selling these types of investments to make a commission. And that's not necessarily the best thing for that person. And I don't, they start to feel kind of dirty. Oh, interesting.
Because what happens is the clients find out, call in, the advisor doesn't want to take the phone call, and all the staff get the anger from the clients, and they're like, I don't want to be here anymore. I don't get paid enough to deal with it. So that's one of the most unique things that I would ask if I was meeting with a financial advisor.
So you would just ask like how, okay, so how many staff work for you? Oh, I have an assistant and a receptionist and a paraplanner who helps me on complicated financial planning stuff. Okay, well, how long have those people worked for you?
Absolutely. There's that. Or you walk in, you generally sit down in the office and then there's a secretary and you go, hey, how long have you been here?
Yeah, you can do that too if you're meeting in office. I feel like nowadays, like 99% of everything's done over Zoom. But that would work too.
Meet in office, or like you call in and you talk to somebody. And you're like, hey, how long have you been there?
Yeah,
you know what I mean. It's just a very simple question.
Yeah.
And if there's a lot of turnover in the business, I would tend to kind of steer towards an advisor that's had a staff that's with him for a very long period of time.
Yeah, that's cool.
The second thing that I feel is really good is when you're talking to an advisor. And what I've noticed in the industry and is that there are some advisors that are very good at sales. And so they sit in that role and they don't know as much about investing in the economy as they should. Okay. And so they're good at saying, okay, these are your problems. We're going to handle those problems with these investments and this planning. But they don't really know about the planning and they don't really know about the investments.
Oh, like they pawn it off to somebody else.
Yeah, they kind of like pawn it off to somebody else.
I've seen that before.
I've seen a ton of that. And then I've found that individuals who know a lot about investing, they're generally a bit nerdier, I have to say. Or,
yeah, like you and me.
Yeah. They're a bit like, we like to get in the weeds and all that other stuff. So those guys sometimes aren't at the best, you know what I mean, on the client side and selling things, but they generally perform better. This is my experience, that they generally perform better for their clients,
Sure.
So some of the things that I would look at when you're talking to your advisor is, you might ask them, why do you think that this investment is going to do that? Now, if they're sharp on it and they know what they're talking about and they know this particular stock or they know this particular mutual fund, they know about it, they'll generally just tell you straight up, you know. But if you have another guy that's always kind of like dodging questions and dodging questions and dodging questions.
Red flag.
I would red flag that.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't know quite as much. And so I would say definitely look at those two things. I think those two things most people won't talk about or you won't find in like how to pick your advisor lists. So
yeah, no, I think those are really good points. And for anybody who's watching this, if if you're looking at hiring a financial advisor, maybe you're wondering, should I find somebody who can help me with my finances? The answer is yes. You totally should
Yeah.
if you think so. Many financial planners or financial advisors will offer you a complimentary consultation. They'll sit down with you and answer questions, kind of get to understand your scenario. And a lot of people who work in our profession are very just good, honest people who are we're doing this to help people with their finances. And but it's also important to understand that not everybody's going to be extremely high integrity and honest, or maybe not really capable of helping you to the full degree of help that you need or deserve. And so understanding some of these key points, like the tenure of their staff, I think
Oh
that's
yeah.
really cool. Making sure they just answer your questions and don't like
Oh
dodge
yeah.
around
Oh my
things.
God, yeah.
You know, uh, are they a fiduciary? Um, how many clients they serve like you? And making sure they're not kind of pigeonholed into only doing one thing like life insurance, or only doing investment accounts and not financial planning, or only
Hmm.
doing alternative investments, or but is capable of really helping, has the whole toolbox at their disposal.
Yeah.
And I think if you're in that situation and you can find a good person like that, someone who you get along with, you feel like you can trust, then that's really great. And if anybody's interested in talking with us and asking any questions, or having just a complimentary consultation to maybe go over your particular situation and see if there's anything we can help you with, then feel free to go to our website. The link's in our bio, and reach out, and we'd be happy to chat and see if we can help you. And thank you for watching our video.